Cool. On to our next story then. Cool.
And that's me, and that is Gotham Knights. So this is the second video game they were talking about at the FanDome, which they were also talking about at the last FanDome, and still no official date apart from 2022. So we'll see if that actually comes out. So this is a story about focusing on the Bat family that, apart from Batman, so it seems like once again the storyline of Batman and Commissioner Gordon, it seems, are gone, are missing, and you can play as either Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Robin. Is it, Tom?
It's Red Hood.
Red
I'm
Hood,
pretty
that's
sure
it.
the Robin is Damian Wayne.
Damian Wayne, yeah. So, yeah, it's a single-player game, and the storyline is focusing around the Court of Owls. Now, I will say, the trailer had me hyped. Love the tone of the trailer. Very mysterious, very gothic, as you would expect, something based in Gotham. The narration by the Penguin as well, talking about the Court of Owls. He's like, hey, you don't know nothing, kid. You know, it just had this creepy, eerie vibe. Again, though, very much like the Suicide Squad one, I was like, I want to see some gameplay here. I want to see what the mechanics of this game looks like. Although I will say it does seem like the Arkham games, the Batman Arkham games, just with like a new skin on it and obviously new characters you can play in. So that's why I think the Suicide Squad game for me is going to be more interesting gameplay, something different, not something I've played before, because it looks like this is going to be a lot of the same type of moves and stuff like that, the same controls you use to make those type of fighting moves in the Batman Arkham games, which I love, by the way. I think they're great. But the story has me. I've always been a big fan of the Court of Owls since they were introduced in the New 52. I think in the short space of time they've been around, they're cemented themselves as a big part of the Batman mythos now. So I'm always down for anything Court of Owls. But Tom, I go to you, the gamer of this podcast. What did you think of this?
Yeah, again, very disappointed that there was no gameplay. Because, well, as we said, just like, I don't understand how, like, obviously if it's early days and you're still, like when Dragon Age releases stuff, like there's still early days in production, so I understand putting in just like a trailer. But, you know, if this game is meant to be coming out in 2022, surely you have something to show us what the combat and mechanics are going to be like.
Isn't that a big part of the gaming industry where they're always like at expos and stuff, and they're like, delays, we're sorry, we can't show you any gameplay, delay, like production delays.
Yeah, basically what usually happens is a game announces a delay because they're just like, you know, we're not happy, we want to make sure the quality is good, and then people complain, so then they don't delay the game again, and then you get a game like Cyberpunk, which disappoints everyone except me, apparently. Yeah, as for Gotham Knights, as Jake said, like the story just looks really cool. I like the whole aspect of Batman is dead or missing. I think he's probably about as dead as Captain America was in the Avengers game, but there we go. Spoilers for anyone who wants to play the Avengers game.
Hey, I did.
He's not now.
And as
Thanks,
Jake
Tom.
has previously said, he is not a gamer, so... But
and I played that one.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm very intrigued by this, especially like the cast of characters you can play. I'm believing it's supposed to be co-op aspect to it as well, so I'm calling Batgirl in that case, or Damian. I'll happily take Damian. And yeah, just the setting, as you said, Jake, like Court of Owls have cemented themselves as like a big part now of Batman's whole deal. Like, I wouldn't say they're like as iconic as, you know, say Bane or Joker or Penguin and that, but I'd say they're at the level now where even some non-comic book readers know of them.
They've definitely seen the masks.
Yeah, and I think that game is just going to like cement it even more, because there are a lot of people who will play Batman themed games but just won't read the comics, and that's fine, but it does break my heart a little bit. Yeah, just very excited to see more of this. I'm hoping that maybe like early next year we'll start to see some more gameplay footage from this and Suicide Squad. Maybe it's I'm not sure if there are any big gaming events coming up anytime soon, but if they are, then hopefully we'll actually get some gameplay and we can actually have some proper thoughts on what these games are going to be. But I'm tentatively excited though.
Yeah, I think for me, I said at the time, I kind of excited, similar to Suicide Squad, about how this could mean, what this could mean for like what we get visually in like TV, film, etc. So I like the Court of Owls. I've always been intrigued by them. I think they have a really great visual look, and I think that they've pulled that off really well here. And I think a lot of people speculated in the past, and I said that the Court of Owls seems to suit quite well the tone that they're going for with the Batman, with, you know, Matt Reeves, etc. So I could see them doing that, and I could see them wanting to build it up here. Because again, you know, as we've said before, like video games are often like a way of like testing out different stories or characters, etc. You know, Marvel did it with the Avengers game, like, oh, you know, let's introduce people to Ms. Marvel, etc. So also, I suppose the same with Batgirl. I think that like she looks like great in this as well. That, you know, before I was always a bit like, why is she like purple and yellow? Like, why, you know, there's always the jokes about Robin, etc. But why has she got such a vivid costume? But seeing it here, I was a bit more like, yeah, actually this can work cinematically. It looks good. Again, a cowl done well. So hopefully that's translated well if, you know, when we get in live action. Not sure about like Red Hood hanging around with them. I found that a bit jarring. I was a bit like, wait, isn't he like kind of like a villain? I found it a bit weird to see him mixing in.
Well, in New 52, he was kind of like treated like just as part of the family again.
Yeah. He's sort of one of the...
I think I just prefer with something like Nightwing or something. I still just think that the look of the character, even though if like Red Hood has become a part of the family, I'm like, well, just change who you are because that looks like a villainous. He looks like Deathstroke or something, so...
Oh, no, he still kills people.
Well, there we go then. So, like, if either make him, like, a villain who kills people or make him a hero. So that's why just him there with Batgirl and Robin, I was a bit like, this seems like a villain hanging around with heroes, but they don't seem to be playing in that way. It seems to be playing it as, like, 3 heroes, which I find a bit strange.
It's complicated,
so,
Dave.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a complicated family.
Simplify it, you know, like make it more simple.
Yeah. I actually, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure in like a current or recent run, there was a whole thing with Red Hood, like renouncing killing. I'm sure that was a thing that's been happening recently. Could be wrong, though.
So excited for what this could mean for, again, the live action projects. And yeah, it looks like a fun game. And like Jake said, you know, has very much that Arkham sort of appeal to it.
And once again, I probably won't be playing it because it'll probably only come out on PS5.
Well, what I'll do is I'll play the games for you guys and I'll tell you how they were in vivid detail. Maybe we could do a Caped Cowls Masks Twitch thing.
Maybe that could be fun.
Be a thing, actually.
It's just like that meme of the dog sat in like the fire, but just with Tom because he's been smoking a cigarette and just burns DC down to the ground when something happens in the game he doesn't like.
No, that's reserved for any more Wally West slander.
Yeah, I didn't say you like purposely like lit the fire.
Oh, right, so it was an accident. I was just smoking a cigarette and I burnt down DC.
No, just your house, just the way where you are. You just Twitch stream and everyone's like, there's a fire in your like background. Like, oh shit, sorry.
It's performance art, okay? It's my Human Torch audition.
You know, you're that meme, like we're surrounded by fire. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. Right, Tom, what have we got next?
What have we got next? So, are you ready for anime Catwoman? Because we got Catwoman Hunted, the trailer for that. It looks absolutely wild. I wasn't initially expecting the sort of like anime style art. I wouldn't say it's, you know, it's very heavily influenced by that anyway, but I think it actually really works for it. It just looks fun. Just looks like a really fun flick, and I will definitely be picking it up. But yeah, guys, what did you make of it? Are you as excited as me for this? Were you expecting the anime art style, or am I alone in my shock?
Well, when you say you're ready for animated Catwomen, I thought we already had that with the musical Cats, but...
Oh God!
But yeah, I think that there is something that has always obviously worked about Catwoman in animation. It kind of reminds me a bit of like, do you remember the Batman, which had that kind of like different version of like the Joker with like the straitjacket, etc. Like the Catwoman,
not to be confused with Robert Pattinson.
No, like the animated, the Batman. Like the Catwoman there, she always had a very like, you know, the goggles, the like, you know, like very pointy ears, etc. So it kind of reminds me of that and that look to Catwoman, because they can have like various iterations and looks to that character. I think kind of works. And as I said earlier, you know, animation thrives when it's able to experiment and do different things. And rather than just be like, oh, we're going to become Illumination, you know, like use your animation division as you've done potentially with your last few projects of like changing it up and not just having the same style and doing different animation styles. So especially on the back of where we've had things like Star Wars Visions, it's great that we're able to see that, experimentation with anime, different animation styles. So yeah, I think it, am I immediately watching it going like, oh yeah, I need to go watch that immediately? I can just appreciate it and be like, yeah, I'm glad that exists.
Jake?
Yeah, yeah. Unlike you, Dave, I can't wait to watch this one. Like this, I knew this animated film was happening, but I just thought it was, just another animated film amongst all the DC animated films. And then seeing the trailer, hearing the music, the vibe of this, the attitude of this, the art style of it, the story they're going for as well. Catwoman's basically like James Bond, like she's globetrotting. It has espionage, spy type of thing, or like a heist type of thing. Well, naturally, she always is doing heists. But with the music behind it, I just had like this 60s, 70s vibe of heist movies. And with this anime art style, like Dave said, I'm so glad they're experimenting now and not just doing the one style, house art style. And I think it really suits it. I think Catwoman and Batwoman as well in this looks absolutely great in this art style. It really suits to them. So yeah, this one caught me by surprise, and now it's like quite up there with most anticipated DC stuff. I can't wait for this one. And as well as that, they also talked about some of the other stuff they got coming down the line. I know you're a bit sad that there was no news of the Green Lantern TV show, Tom, but they did say that there is a Green Lantern animated movie coming next year.
Did.
So we got that coming. And they said that they're also doing Super Sons. So that's Jonathan Kent and Damian Wayne. And this will be DC's first CG animated film. So that caught both me and Dave by surprise.
Yeah.
We looked at each other, oh, that's a new direction for that. So we'll see how that goes. That will be interesting because it'll be interesting to see how much money they put behind it. Because are they going to... I don't expect Pixar level, but could they maybe get to like DreamWorks level? Like, even How to Train Your Dragon is pretty up there, I'd say. But do you think they would pump enough money into it to make it in that level, or do you think it's going to be like maybe HBO Max TV level? Where do you think they're going to go with that, Dave?
I'm trying to think of like a CG animated project which like looks good on like TV budget, because obviously like DreamWorks and stuff will do things like the Netflix, I don't know, like they do How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda series and stuff, but usually that just looks like a very downgraded version. I guess like Pixar's done that as well with like Monsters at Work, with like Monsters Inc., so that sort of like downgrades it, but it still looks passable. But again, it's hard to judge because they're such like cartoonish characters. This, you're dealing with like more realistic looking characters, and we haven't even really had that much superhero content in CG full stop, like, because we go like into the Spider-Verse, which is very much its own thing and a blend.
That's a blend.
So I don't know, it's just hard to envision. When they mentioned it, I was trying to think of like imagining these characters, but all I can think of, and it's not a good example, well, bit harsh, but is like, was it like Green Lantern First Flight or something like that? They did have like CG, and it was very much like a blocky kind of 3D effect.
It was the Green Lantern animated series.
So I don't know, I'd have to look into it more. They're probably most, when I think of like the best animated TV, Clone Wars, do Clone Wars. So like that like when I think of the best animation on television, you tend to think of things like The Last Airbender, Batman the Animated Series. So again, it's all like 2D. But even those, I suppose, you see Last Airbender and you can see the restrictions. So as long as your story is good enough, as long as like the action is enticing enough, and anime typically will like do things like they just hold out their hands and it's a beam of light. So it's very much cutting corners in that they're not actually having anything move, but you can do it in a compelling way. So, and like Clone Wars, again, was a bit clunky at the start, but they managed to very much embrace that. The Bad Batch, me and Jake said it when we were reviewing that, is some of the most impressive TV animation we'd ever seen. So yeah, if you can be that level, but what they cleverly...
Animation in general.
What they cleverly do is, again, those designs, you don't go, and just have like somebody's hair and every strand. they make it that kind of maquette statue style, so you can avoid that and it still looks good without then having like, oh, it's just like crappy fuzzy hair because we haven't got the budget to do like individual hairs. So it depends on the style they go for, I guess.
Yeah, Brave was expensive. All those strands of hair. So, Tom, do you have anything to say regarding the forthcoming CG animated film from DC?
I mean, yeah, I'm just quite excited to just see Jonathan Kent get some love. I love the Super Sons comic, so seeing Damian and John team up together in an animated feature, very excited for that. Very nervous because of like the CG aspect, because as you said, like how much money are they going to pump into this? But if they can like aspire to Clone Wars Bad Batch level, I think it'll be great. So yeah, it's a project I'm tentatively excited for, but I think it's one that I'm definitely going to need to see some footage of it before I get properly excited.
Fair enough. All right. What we got next, Dave?
So we talk about Catwoman, but now we go to Batgirl, in which, again, we're sort of talking to the directors of that film. We also talked to the star. We got a lot of like the concept art. So Leslie Grace was there, who will be playing Barbara Gordon, which recently was seen by more audiences in The Heights. And we got like conversations with the directors, which is Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah. So this is obviously based upon the popular DC character Barbara Gordon and her fighting crime as Batgirl. And yeah, we just got a lot of sort of insight into like how excited she is to play the character. A lot of like concept art. As we said before, this is a HBO Max film, so a lot of the same gripes as we had with the Blue Beetle film. But aside from that, Tom, what are your thoughts on like having this Batgirl movie and what the directors and the star had to say?
I was very happy with what they were all saying about the movie and what they're like aiming to go for. It seems they are going to be quite ambitious when it comes to like sort of the action scenes, and just I'm quite liking the actress they've got as well. She just has such an infectious smile, so I'm already like liking that. And I got the confirmation that Batgirl will have the red hair. That was just I was very happy about that. I was very, very happy. The concept art looks very cool. I do wish it was maybe a bit more of a closer up look of the sort of costume in there, but for what we got, yeah, I'm quite excited for this one. As we've said, we do have our issues with it being released on HBO Max. I don't think I can really add anything more to that. But it's Batgirl. It's live action Batgirl. That will hopefully be better than the Batgirl we got in Batman and Robin. Please, good God. But yeah, just it's probably like one of my more anticipated DC films. But as I said, it is kind of soured by the whole HBO Max aspect. But hopefully we'll get some more news and maybe some footage soon, maybe, hopefully. I don't know. And they'll show how early production it is. I can't remember what they were saying before. But yeah.
Even though I think this does obviously deserve the big screen, though, like Blue Beetle, etc., I would say at least with this one, you've got some sort of precedent for Gotham being on television a bit more, not so much in like that Gotham TV series, but we were talking about the games earlier, so you can still have that like look to Gotham. You don't need to have the grand aspect to it. You can very much do that kind of like detective nature to it. So at least it isn't like Blue Beetle like and Static Shock. Like, what are you doing? Like, these powers are perfect for the big screen, whereas Batgirl isn't there like flying around like shooting laser beams. So I can somewhat understand that. Still think it's like Robin, like a great opportunity. But Robin, but the. Hey. Yeah, I very much would be excited for like the potential look of this, and that's where potentially streaming or television could like lend itself to that they could do something a bit more like, the neon, the kind of like look of Gotham that we see within like those video games that, like I was saying earlier, I'm excited to potentially see that costume translated to screen, of having that kind of like purplish costume with like the cowl, etc., because there's so many times in which Batgirl has different looks. And especially as you mentioned, Tom, because it was like you essentially got some like just a generic female looking bat woman in that Batman and Robin film. It just didn't look like its own individual character like Robin does. That it's about time that you saw that on screen. So I hope we get to see like the yellow, the purple, and like the fact that they're having the red hair is kind of almost confirmation that they're dedicated in that way. Jake, what do you think?
Don't know what else to say after what you two guys have said, but yeah, I'm very excited for this. How dare you also not mention the writer of the film, who was also there, Christina Hodson.
I apologize.
'Cause she was also there. She had a lot of great things to say. As I've mentioned before, I really like what she did with Birds of Prey, so I'm very excited to see her work on this. Apart from Matt Reeves in the Batman panel, these guys were my favorite directors to listen to. They were just so infectious. They had so much charisma. They were like laughing, joking, talking about how excited they are. I don't think they are in production yet. I still think they're probably wrapping things up with Miss Marvel, their current project. So we'll see when they get into production. But yeah, the fact that they get in the red hair, they said that they're committing and they're doing the cowl. We've already said our gripes about some of the cowls, so we'll see how they pull that off. But I also really appreciate that when they mentioned the red hair and the cowl, that they put an image of issue 1 of Batgirl from Gail Simone, which is arguably the best run of Batgirl ever written. She seems to really understand the character and have a grasp on her. And the fact that they're showing that seems to me that they might going to take inspiration or influence from Gail Simone's run on Batgirl. So I'm very excited for that. And this, strangely, wasn't announced at DC FanDome, but it was announced a couple of days later that J.K. Simmons is confirmed to also be coming back as Commissioner Gordon in this Batgirl film. So we get basically a confirmation that it is in the DC EU related to Jim Gordon. So, yeah, I'm very excited for this film.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Like, the implications of J.K. Simmons being there. But yeah, I mean, I'm just excited generally just to see more of J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, because I feel like we were teased with that. The possibilities of that are endless. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm excited for Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. I think that's going to be something really special, but I did always want to see what J.K. Simmons could do with the role, so it is nice that we are going to get maybe a little bit of closure on that.
Also, I like the fact that potentially Barbara Gordon is then like a child of like a mixed race couple, which would be nice. So then if it was like a darker skin, like her mother was of darker skin, that could be very interesting as well, and like very like innovative of them to be like, yeah, like Jim Gordon was with like, that was like his wife, etc. It isn't just like cut and dry of like, yeah, her parents like looked exactly the same as her, and this is why she's this way. It's just very realistic for them to be like, mixing like people of different backgrounds and cultures in that way. And also I think it's great for you mentioned the directors there, Jake, that the fact that going from Ms. Marvel goes to show that, don't get me wrong, I think it's crucial that like more women are brought into the industry through writing and directing, but I don't think we should get into this bad habit of having like, oh, you're telling this type of story, it has to be this type of person, like it's this ethnicity, you have to have an Indian director do it, Indian, because you would get into a lot of problems then. I think the fact that you just want more women directing stuff in general, the fact that you can have female directors doing like male, like projects which are like male heroes, and the same on the other side, it comes down to like where people have said, I think, to like George R. R. Martin before, like, oh, how do you write women so well, and why so many female characters? And he's just like, I don't know, because I don't see them as like man and woman, I just see them as good characters. And I think that the fact that, if they're going to make like a strong character with Ms. Marvel and they're able to do the same here, it's just going to be great testament to how, like writers of any background and gender and anything can write for any characters. We don't always have to like pin it down. I think, yes, it is very important that when you have something like Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, yes, women had to direct that. But I just as much want to see like a woman direct a Batman film as I'd want to see like two guys direct a Batgirl film. So I think it's really great for them if they're able to sort of like embolden these characters and really do a good job in that way, especially when you have got somebody like Christina Hodson writing it, because obviously she's did a great job with the female representation with Birds of Prey. Which, talking about Birds of Prey quickly, I would be quite interested if like in the future based on, like how good an actress Leslie Grace is, and the fact she's playing Barbara Gordon, and you've got, Commissioner Gordon in there with J.K. Simmons, I'd be quite interested to say this was a trilogy or something. I'd be quite interested if they went with the Killing Joke storyline of like her eventually becoming Oracle, like her like being wheelchair bound or something.
No, because it's Jared Leto in this universe.
I don't know. Is it though? Like,
you can't.
Nah. We're getting Michael Keaton in a Flash film. They can easily just be like, yeah, this is just some other universe
Multiverse.
with J.K. Simmons as Jeff, as Commissioner Gordon. But ultimately, I'm just saying I would like to see her. I think it'd be quite cool the fact that we didn't get Oracle in Birds of Prey, for her to have this like great character arc. I think it'd be really good to see her there as the hero at the start of the trilogy, and at the end of it, be like, oh my god, like a character then become like disabled and traumatized by something, but become something new. I think that would be really great for them to depict on screen. I think it would just be like very harrowing arc, and it would just suit like the movies.
They'd have to handle it like very, very carefully, because there have been complaints about like the Killing Joke in the past, because Barbara really didn't have any agency whatsoever in that story, and then the animated feature ruins that even more.
Well,
and even Alan Moore disowns that story a bit.
I'm thinking more of the angle
he never
of like
intended for it to be canon.
I'm just thinking of it as more like the great character that Oracle was within the Birds of Prey, kind of like getting that original team, etc.
Yeah, I think for 2021 audiences and just the way we are as a society now, I think you could probably tell it differently now.
Yeah,
just update.
That's all I'm saying. That I wouldn't mind them going down that route, but I'd just like to see them do it in a way that just does give Barbara more agency in the story. And maybe she does unfortunately get paralyzed, but maybe it's just the result of an act of heroism rather than the Joker's just rocked up at a flat.
Yeah,
bang.
No, that's what I was thinking. That's why I was saying with an actress like Leslie Grace, you could show that story again. Like I would put like a comparison to another female character, but it might ruin a series which people haven't seen. So yeah,
good call.
Fair enough. And last thing on Batgirl, then I think are we all in agreement and saying no Batman in this? We don't.
Oh no! Especially after you mentioned the Killing Joke animated version, we don't want to go down that road.
Oh god! Oh no! God! Definitely not. Right. Let's move on to the next one, which is HBO Max TV shows. So, excuse me. We got 2 mid-season trailers for both Titans and Doom Patrol, which are halfway through their season 3s, and also announced they will be getting season 4 for each of those shows. So it's really good news to see that these shows keep on going. They seem to have an audience. At some point, I wonder how long these shows can go on for, because we see with the CW that the old school classic cable TV format is, you could say, dying out. And I feel as if with streaming shows now, as an audience, most people want to have a beginning, middle, and end. A lot of people are into limited series or like only 1, 2, or 3 series, absolute max. That's the sort of jam we're into now as a society and how we binge and watch TV. So it'll be really interesting to see how far they go on. But at the same time, it's clearly getting enough viewers to get season 4. But at the same time, I also, like we were mentioning, like with Blue Beetle and some of these projects being films on HBO Max, it's a bit interesting that they're not putting more effort in making more TV shows for HBO Max. Tom, you mentioned after the event, which I didn't even think about until you mentioned, that there was mum about the Green Lantern TV show, which is supposedly in production right now. They've had castings and all of that. Not a peep regarding that, which is very odd. And I just feel as if, why are they not investing a bit more into series? Dave made an excellent point. If you want to bring subscribers in, you make TV shows. You don't make films. So it's just interesting that they're not announcing new stuff for HBO Max. But Tom, what do you think of this? Are you caught up with these shows?
I'm probably more caught up with Titans than I am Doom Patrol, but I will be remedying that in the near future. I've always been a bit of a Titans apologist, even though I can recognize the absolute worst of it. Like, why the fuck?
Fuck Batman.
Like the fact that they moved the season 1 finale to being the season 2 premiere. I still do not understand that decision, and it still gripes me. And also
It's absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
And it's the fact that like the fan base for it, at least in the groups I'm in, various like comic book themed groups or groups dedicated as well to like Titans. Loads of people seem to be just in the mindset of, how does this show keep getting renewed? Like, who is watching this show and going like, I'm happy with how things are? Like, I've heard like it's always the same, I find, with Titans. And this is like the vibe I've gotten from this season. I haven't picked it up yet. But it's the fact that it'll start really promising and you'll be like, okay, this is something I can get into. And then just sort of towards the middle and end, it just really just like tapers off and you're just like, why are you making these decisions? I mean, I won't go into too many things in case people do want to binge watch Titans when the UK eventually gets HBO Max. But yeah, I do find it a little bit crazy that it is. I think what made it a bit crazy for me is that there's been a lot of buzz about there apparently being a Curran Walters Red Hood series. And before DC FanDome, he was like sharing like really cryptic things, like going like, "Oh, make sure you tune in because it's like some big news, huge announcement." So everyone was kind of there, just going like, "Ah, you're getting a Red Hood show," and then it was just like, "No, it's Titans season 4," which was a little bit disappointing, but that is kind of on us as the fans. Doom Patrol, I do desperately need to catch up with that, but it is a show I'm actually like I do like. So the fact it's getting another season, that's just great for me. But yeah, just I think it is kind of soured by the fact. Oh yeah, we got that DMZ sneak peek as well and some details on that. Yeah. That looks
with the Rosario.
Yeah, that looks really really interesting, and I'm definitely like I don't think I've read the comics, but it's definitely something I'm very interested in, especially with Ava DuVernay attached to it. But yeah, the fact that there was like nothing on Green Lantern, and here's the thing, right? Even though, like, obviously we've had casting news for Green Lantern, we've had some plot details leak out for Green Lantern, I've never felt like DC have actually put the effort into pushing it out. It's more just like they go, "Oh yeah, by the way, we've cast Alan Scott and Guy Gardner. Do with that what you will." Whereas with all these other things, they keep putting a bit more effort into it. Like they want you to be excited for it. It doesn't seem like DC are that excited for Green Lantern, and so the fact that there is like zero word on it. It does concern me. I'm trying to like just like give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe just say like maybe they're still a bit too early in production to really realistically give any updates. Maybe there's been some issues and possibly they're going to have to delay it. But
concept art,
yeah, the fact we got concept art for Blue Beetle,
look at Batgirl and Blue Beetle, and like yeah.
Or the fact that like even for the Flash, they were just like, we don't have a real teaser or a real trailer. We've just kind of had to like mash something together that kind of resembles a trailer.
Just do a Kevin Feige. Just be like, we know that you're all expecting announcements on the Fantastic Four and X-Men, which will be coming up in the future. Just about cool.
Yeah, just mention it. Just go, by the way, it is still in production. We just don't have anything yet, which is still unbelievable. But yeah, as for the shows currently being announced, I suppose it is great that they are getting like more seasons because it is just more content for HBO Max. So that's only a good thing for them. But yeah, I feel like they need to expand on the TV shows a bit more, give more because there's so many characters that could work great in a TV show format. And I mean, I'm not sure about. I still to this day, I'm not sure how it happened, but maybe give us.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
I'm not sure how it.
Yes,
it was such a weird reason why it got, because it wasn't even
money.
Yeah, it wasn't even that it got cancelled because like it was bad. It was like some weird tax thing.
Tax reasons, yeah. So weird.
So it's just like. Because that loads of people were liking that, but like I dropped off it because I was just kind of like, well, this was initially being filmed in mind with having more story to tell, and it's just been unceremoniously cut off. But yeah, I
enjoyed it.
Yeah, just DC needs to double down on their TV a bit more, and I think they've just given us the bare minimum in extending the shelf life of these 2 seasons.
They need more if they want to compete
like
with Marvel.
Swamp
in that
Thing
sense.
seems perfect for like HBO Max. Because again, like you don't want to, waste your big characters in some ways. You want to use those more obscure ones. And I think the Titans and Doom Patrol, but to me, it makes sense to just carry over like they've done with a lot of like HBO series, because they still, to me at least, like don't look like CW shows. They don't look like cable television. So I think because even like Titans. which I think is sometimes, or I don't know if all of it is gone on like Netflix in the UK. And you can kind of see that on the homepage and be like, yeah, this kind of look, like it could get away with being a Netflix original. But I was still surprised that it got renewed because, again, both these series I need to sort of like catch up on. But I have heard like comments about Titans being sometimes unwatchable, which I was like, oh wow. So yeah, I'm surprised in that sense, and like some of the discourse and anger that happens with some of the characters, etc. But I have been enticed by it, by seeing certain things and seeing certain characters, being like, okay, that does look cool. You've done that right. It very much seems again like the CW of like, this is this version of the Titans, not the Teen Titans. It's its own thing. And I think that's what seems to be happening. It seems to be like there's this dedicated fan base and it's become its own entity, but it's still just like nothing to do with Teen Titans. And it doesn't matter what happens to certain characters or the quality, because that fan base is still there, just eating it all up because they just love the cast or the characters because it's all new to them, because maybe they're just not there like for loyalty of the comics, etc. And yeah, happy for Doom Patrol. That seems like something like worthy of carrying on HBO Max. I agree with Jake. I think that you should focus more on limited series now. I think that is the way. I think, as Jake referenced, that we live in a society which people want limited series. So I think that makes sense. But yeah, just shocked that there isn't more HBO series. I can understand, again, they don't want to do the Marvel thing of being like, oh, here's like 20 series that we're thinking of making and potentially, and like half of them might not happen. But again, weird when you've got weird when you're like we said, announcing live action movies, which could be television shows or could be theatrical movies, and then have TV shows of other characters to replace that. So or even do what they're doing quite well in terms of building up, there's going to be this Batman movie, and then there's going to be this like accompanying series, like they're doing with Peacemaker, etc. That's kind of, again, following like the Marvel formula. Like, if you're invested in this, you're going to love this, and you're going to see that continue. That's the way to do it. But I don't know, maybe they just feel that they need to build their cinematic universe a bit more before they can get to that level.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I'm not caught up with season 3, but I have seen the first 2 seasons of both of these shows. Titans, I'm very, very mixed bag. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, this is actually pretty good. And then other times, as you heard, Dave, sometimes it is unwatchable. Doom Patrol, though, is an absolute gem. I fucking love Doom Patrol. I think it's a fantastic show. It's so weird. It's so bizarre. But because of that, I love it because of its weirdness. But I think, I don't think like the general audience is going to really grasp onto this because of how out there it is. But to get 4 seasons, it seems to be doing quite well. So that's surprising, that aspect. But I really need to catch up with season 3 because Doom Patrol is phenomenal.
Sounds like the same appeal as Legion.
I think it's so good.
Seems very much like that.
Yes, it is. It's in that sort of wheelhouse of just like, I don't know what I'm watching, but I'm loving it. Right, what we got next then? More HBO Max stuff, Tom.
Yes, we do, and this is actually quite an exciting project. Is Harley Quinn season 3? So we got. It was actually, I really liked how they sort of announced this, as they had the animated King Shark and Harley Quinn there announcing the show and kind of explaining that like they were still working on it, but they had like a trailer for us, and the trailer itself was very unfinished. But I actually kind of liked that aspect of it because, at the end of the day, it actually shows like they're still in early days, but they're still giving us something. Although I am wondering, like, but you gave us like the actual animated characters at the start, but then you give us an unanimated trailer. But whatever, it looks absolutely bonkers. I believe it's like entitled like the Eat Bang Kill Tour, which I believe is also a comic that's currently running, which is like a continuation of the end of the last season of Harley Quinn, which is something I actually need to pick up. But yeah, I think it looks crazy. I loved the way they announced it. I thought it was hilarious. And yeah, I'm a fan of this show, so I'm happy to see more of it. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, again, another show I need to sort of catch up on, but everything I've seen, I've loved. I love the humor of it from the clips I've watched, very much is my jam. Again, the UK needs to sort out like a better way of like viewers seeing it. When it's on Channel 4, it only stays on like their streaming service for so many days. but I love like, you know, the fact that obviously they've gone with like the romance with Harley and Ivy, and they just looked like awesome in those, like the art they had of like the dresses with that looked very like kind of, I don't know, like 50s, 60s, like, you know, gangster kind of like noir sort of like look to them. I thought that was fantastic. Love Kaylee Cuoco in this role as well. I think she's really made it her own. And as we said before, it isn't just like an imitation, etc. So, you know, it makes me want to see Harley Quinn even more. And as Tom said as well, I love the way they presented it. I love how they used the characters and made it like a comedic look, and the characters presenting to you. Kind of reminded me of those old days of like with the Oscars, and they were like, oh, you know, like Yoda has come on stage. It's CG Yoda and CG Gollum to like present stuff. Is that kind of like playful fourth wall stuff, which is great for Harley Quinn because again, she's very much like a Deadpool kind of character. So it's always very strong, and yeah, look forward to seeing more.
Yeah, I like Doom Patrol. I absolutely love this show. This is one of my favorite animated shows that DC has ever produced. Not quite Batman the Animated Series, but I would say it's just behind it. I love all the jokes. I just love all the animation. The characterizations are incredible. The voice cast just kill it all the time. It's glorious. It's one of my favorite shows on television right now. And like you guys, I love the way it was presented. They're like, we haven't got a trailer, but here's some like early sketches that we've got. And I love that they reference like, will come at some point. Animation takes a long time. Bragg, as you said, Dave, breaking the fourth wall, self-referential. Yeah, give me the show as soon as possible because I love this show.
Awesome. Speaking of Batman,
what we got next, Dave? More
series,
animation.
So we have what is described as a continuation of the 90s show in very much like a natural continuation, a spiritual continuation as well, that not so much like an actual sequel or prequel series, as Batman Caped Crusader is bringing back, you know, co-creator Bruce Timm, very much at the start as well. They're like J.J. Abrams. So, and then even like Matt Reeves, you know, showing involvement here. So here we got just like more concept art of the series. We also had like the writers talking about how they made this like pilot and how it's like black and white, very much going in with that noir vibe, what we expect to see, very much like a young Batman, like him starting off, the types of characters we can see. And it does seem that it's going to be different from the 90s show in the way that Bruce Timm was talking about, like this is a chance for us to see the different iterations of the villains and we can adapt them differently, etc. But obviously I think it's mainly the art style and the approach which is going to be the sort of like spiritual successor. So yeah, not a project I think anyone expected ever to have, but it's very great to have. Again, something like a streaming service is perfect to have, and I think fans would just eat this up. And I think another great example of like some fantastic animation that you can do in this medium. You can really bolster that art style and what you can do with animation. But what do you guys think? Jake, you're also a big fan of the animated series. What was your reaction?
I mean, big fan is putting it lightly. It's arguably the finest bit of comic book adaptation ever put to screen, I may say. Yeah, the panel was funny because, well, first of all, J.J. Abrams comes on the screen first. You're like, whoa. What are you? I saw that tweet where somebody put the Darth Maul of, why
I'm here to talk to you about
here?
Dark Justice League Dark TV show. Only joking. Right. We don't do TV shows.
It's just... we'll talk about that maybe a bit later in our closing thoughts. But it was really weird because when I think of J.J. Abrams, I still think of Star Trek and Star Wars. So I guess I have to get used to him thinking when I think of DC now, because he seems to be the guy over there, spearheading a lot of these projects. But whatever, he's there. Matt Reeves is there, but clearly by Matt Reeves' comments, he's like, hey, I'm just here as a spectator, really. I don't really have any involvement in this. But it was really good to hear from Bruce Timm, the original creator of the show, and what they're doing with this show. I was kind of confused when they made the announcement about this because I was like, is it a reboot? Is it a sequel? Is it a continuation? I wasn't too sure. And then the way Bruce Timm was talking about it, to me it seemed like, okay, it's a new series, but it's just spiritually the similar in tone to what they did in the Batman animated series. So a sort of spiritual continuation of that, you could say. So, okay, all right, I know what I'm in for now, and everything they said, yeah, I love it. I love the dark noir theme. This could be something fantastic. I just hope they do something a bit different with it, though. I don't want to see just the same thing, or else I would just watch that. Do you know what I mean? Do something a bit different with it. And they, by the looks of it, they think they are. They're going to go even earlier. You know, he's going to be almost in, and we know we'll get to the Matt Reeves Batman, but almost similar to what they're doing with Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson, a very stripped down Batman, not as techie, more of a detective noir sort of thing. So yeah, anything that you say Batman and this sort of detective noir and these creators involved, I'm down for. So yeah, I can't wait for this, but they didn't even announce a date, so it's probably not going to come for a while.
No, not for a little while yet, but yeah, I'm also very excited for this. I mean, as any reasonable man is, I'm a huge fan of the original 90s Batman animated series. So, yeah, just like getting into the idea of this being sort of in the same tone, but just taking an earlier look at Batman. He's actually got like, it shows you how he like acquires the fancy gadgets he gets, or how he like gets to certain points in his life, how he like maybe meets certain people. And the idea of maybe like just doing something different with the villains makes me think that it is going to be something fresh, and it's not just going to be like I mean, it's obviously going to be tugging at our nostalgia a little bit, but I think they do want to make it its own thing and give it its own identity. I think they're saying they want to make it like a bit more mature as well, but maybe that's just because they are being given the freedom to do that. It's not like you're making a kids show, so you've got to limit what you're doing. It's just like you're making a Batman show now. So that'll be very interesting to see how that comes out. Yeah, I think
well, it is still I was going to say that it is still premiering.
But then
on
I
Cartoon
never
Network
watched the animated series and thought this is a kids show. Like, you know, there's so many dark moments in that, and it didn't seem like anything was.
That's very true. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna start doing crazy
but then that's
violence.
kind of like the appeal in some ways, is that you can kind of do that darker, moodier stuff without being like, oh, here it is, like exactly for you.
But yeah, I think it's. I just kind of wish they had given us a date for it, because now I'm just going to be sat here waiting and just like, I don't know when this is coming, but I kind of need this. I might even end up just watching through the original Batman animated series again, just because, really.
Always
Batman
a good
Beyond,
idea.
jump onto that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I want more news. I want more news on this. Yeah. That's what I want.
It's good to have more information. Like you said, we have
Beyond.
more of a clear idea of like what it is. We know that it's not like just an actual sequel series. Though I would love it if they could just keep the theme in there. I would just love if we could still have the like. So that would be nice. And yeah, just the noir elements, just the style of it. As I've said with things like Star Wars and things like that, I think it's good just to keep that kind of like, if it works, you know, keep that animation style, and like it's just the bread and butter, especially because Batman has had so many different styles which never stuck around the same way as that did. I guess that was also another, like we were talking earlier about DC 3D animation. They did that weird Batman animated show a few years ago where they had like the lesser villains, like the, you know, what was it, like the pig and frog and stuff like that, and then there was like Katana was in there and stuff like that. So that was like kind of Green Lantern First Flight animation style. Yeah, that was
Beware of the Batman.
So yeah, I think it's just when you have something that works, and you know, when you can have this style, stick to it. Very interesting when the writer said, you know, like, oh, we had this like noir black and white episode, and I was like, oh, we should do this for the entire series. And yeah, while that is tempting, you know, I think you just would miss out on like the deep reds and the moody blues and all that kind of stuff. But from what we saw of that, yeah,
put it on the Blu-ray.
So I think, like he said, you could definitely have that as like a special episode or something like that, as Batman the animated series do. Change up your style, have different types of episodes, etc. So I'm very excited on that aspect. So as long as they keep all of those elements, and then see how they do adapt these like big villains, etc. Because again, I just think that something like Batman does lend himself so much to animation, and if we weren't getting a certain project, then I would be like, this is the way you should do Batman. But obviously it makes them lots of money, and also there's a very good adaptation coming in live action, which seems to embrace many of the elements that work within animated versions of Batman. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. But as Tom says, we do kind of have to just hold our breath. And as Harley Quinn said, animation takes a while, so we might be waiting a while for this one. But yeah, more excited now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right. Well, let's get into the next one then before our main one, and that is The Batman. But before we go to The Batman, let's go to Shazam! Fury of the Gods, where once again we get a bit of behind-the-scenes footage where they reveal the new cast, the villains, the locations, and they talk about how this film is much bigger in scope and action and mythology. I'm quite a fan of the first one. It's not a perfect film by any means, but I had quite a lot of fun with it. I do think it was refreshing to come from DC to have more of a playful film, to have more of a comedy film. But I want to see a bit more of a sophistication in the second film. And this seems to be giving me that. It seems to be bigger in scope, as they said. The action seems more intense. I'm always a big fan for mythology and lore and world building. So give me all that Greek mythology stuff. The villains, though, Lucy Liu looks great. Although I have to say, Helen Mirren did look interesting in that outfit. The costume didn't look the best on her. That obviously this is behind the scenes, so once they get into post-production visual effects, they might sort that out and it might look a lot better in the finished film or when we have a trailer. But judging from the behind the scenes thing, I was like, this looks a bit Halloween costumey for me. But it was great to hear from Zachary Levi as well, talking about the film and talking about their new suits. As when they released that image, we all agreed that these suits are definitely an upgrade from what we saw in the first film. So they look great. But Dave, what did you think of this behind-the-scenes stuff, and are you excited for this one? This one doesn't come out
and I'm surprised at that because,
so
like I said, if they are shooting it now, especially considering something like Batgirl is meant to come like 2022, and you're like, really? So, I think that this, like Aquaman, made me more excited for it. I think that, they very much... I love the idea of the scope and everything like that you see in this concept art, and it does look like ludicrous in some places, and they seem to be embracing a lot of the mythology and what made the first one unique or at least intriguing. Despite Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren, I hope we do get that, what was it, Mr. Mind or whatever, the little caterpillar. Like, I did...
Yeah, Mr. Mind. And the Monster Society of Evil.
So, but my problems with like the first film is just that, I felt it was a bit uneven in places, and that sometimes even that film felt a bit like TV-ish or made for streaming. So I was more encouraged here that, again, you seem to have those bigger set pieces. It didn't seem to be like, we're doing this in the dark for like budget reasons and that kind of stuff. And it just seemed more of its own thing. Unlike Jake, I thought I was the reverse. I thought the Helen Mirren actually looked better than Lucy Liu. So again, I don't know if it's just the association with Lucy Liu with the kind of like Charlie's Angels, etc. Whereas at least Helen Mirren has been in some respectable sort of like action stuff. No diss to the people who enjoy those Charlie's Angels films. True.
Hey! She was in Kill Bill.
But I don't know. It just seems like such a long time since that. Which weirdly, Helen Mirren has been in more action films since. The
Fast and the Furious.
But also
films.
just the fact that I don't know. They just seem like such a weird duo. Even when they were like cast, it wasn't like two older actresses, which some people probably could say. Maybe isn't that big a age difference, but just visually, you've got a lady with grey hair and a lady with like black hair, so it doesn't look like the two like witches or anything like that. So I'm a bit like, it just seems such a random kind of combination. It just looks like they're like, yep, this character and this character put them together, mush them together. It just seems like one of those animated shows. They're like, what if they teamed up? It just seems very random in that sense. But I love, and that's what makes me even weirder. I'm like, really? But I love the joke with the young actor turning into Zachary Levi as well. That was great in the presentation, and when he like deliberately didn't say the name so he wouldn't like turn back into like Ash Angel. That was good. So I'm more excited for this film. I think that it looks really great. Like the scope looks good. Maybe somewhat have the concerns about like whether it's going to be a bit hokey with like Lucy Liu, Helen Mirren, etc. But definitely intrigued by what we're seeing in terms of like the concept art and all that kind of stuff, and the fact that like the costumes and stuff look better for our heroes and for the kids and all that kind of stuff.
What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, actually being able to see some behind the scenes stuff and just seeing that, like, I do agree, it does seem to be like much bigger in scope, and hopefully, like, I mean, obviously they got to keep some of the fun element to it, but I'm hoping for something a bit more, just something a bit more than the first one, because like whilst I certainly watched the first one, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite films ever. I don't even think I've watched it since the first time I've watched it. It just didn't really stick with me in the character, to be honest. Even in the comics, whilst there've been some times where I've liked him a bit more, just generally he's never really resonated with me. But actually seeing some stuff for this film, I wouldn't say I'm hyped, but like I'll definitely be like, all right, no, I'm definitely interested to see this, just see where they go with this, especially if they're maybe taking a darker tone to maybe like just slowly move the franchise more to a level where it can have the Rock's Black Adam in there. But yeah, I also agree with you guys just about Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu. It does seem like a very weird like mix up, and I remember that there being like a period of like 3 or 4 weeks where we were all just very confused because they hired Helen Mirren, they hired Lucy Liu, and then like, oh yeah, Pierce Brosnan is Dr. Fate, and we were just like, what is happening right now? Are they picking names out of a hat? And I'm still convinced to this day that they were. But yeah, I think I kind of with you, Jake. I didn't quite like the look of Helen Mirren in it, but it could easily be fixed in post-production or whatever. But yeah, no, it's a film that I'll definitely like go and see, and hell, maybe I'll enjoy, but I just find it very hard to get hyped for Shazam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I figured that since I knew you're not a huge on the character overall, even within the comics, except for Kingdom Come.
Yeah, because you know he's a fucking god in Kingdom Come.
Alex Ross. Yeah. Right. So Tom, what do we got next?
What have we got next? So no big deal. Well, tell you what, we'll obviously we'll build up to this. So I'm here to just give you a quick little teaser before we get into the meat. So first we got some behind the scenes reel of Matt Reeves and Rob Pattinson's The Batman, promising a very radically different film. It was great to get that sort of behind the scenes footage and just seeing the world of Gotham they're trying to create. It just all looks, everything just looks perfect to me. This does seem like it is going to be the Batman film. And then hearing the casting characters like Matt Reeves and Zoe Kravitz and Rob Pattinson actually talk about the film, just like they seem they're so into this film that it's just making me even more into this film, just because I know they've put their hearts and souls into this, and I think it's really going to show. But yeah, what did you guys think of the sort of behind the scenes footage and anything that the cast said that maybe stood out to you? And just are you even excited for this movie? I don't know. I don't know if we've mentioned it before.
I might catch it when it's on streaming or something like that. This truly felt like the main event, because you had the behind the scenes reel, then you had a proper panel, a good 10-15 minutes of them talking, then we got the trailer. So yeah, this definitely felt like the main event, the main focus, and I was eating everything up because I'm so looking forward to this film. So starting off with the behind the scenes reel, really intriguing to see. Obviously we knew what type of look and tone they were going for Gotham, but to see more of the behind the scenes stuff, to hear from these people making this, it just warms my heart as a Batman fan. They're they get it. And very much like last year, Matt Reeves this year again just stole the show for me in terms of vision and enthusiasm and passion for a project. This guy seems to just get it on another level. When he's talking about, we've seen the Batman films go way into the fantasy, but I wanted to take it somewhere where we haven't really seen it before, and that is the proper ground level light year one. Now, we know that Nolan took it very grounded, but it was still based in a very militaristic sort of Batman with the amount of wealth and the technology he had and stuff like that. And it was a very much a reality that we lived in, a world that we lived in, the Dark Knight films, while this one seems like its own Gotham, another world. And I just love how they're talking about how they crafted the film, the tone of the film, picking the right actors to play these characters. I just love it, man. I just absolutely love hearing these people speaking about the film, because you can clearly see that they love it. They absolutely love it, and I can't wait to see this film. We'll get into the trailer in a sec. Dave?
Yeah, like you guys said, I think it's, I'm a big fan of Matt Reeves. I love those Planet of the Apes films. I think that Robin Pattinson is definitely, as we've seen through a lot of his other work, not like a certain franchise, which like I'll get onto once we talk about the trailer, but he's very much like a dedicated actor. He's very into the craft, and I think that it's fantastic that he is such a big Batman fan, and he just really understands the character. When he was talking about it, you could just see that passion there. It wasn't kind of like where other actors, where they'll say like, oh yeah, when I was reading the comics and I couldn't believe this happened. He's talking about it as somebody who's just like understands the characters, grew up with him, grew up with things like the 90s series. And also, I think I said to you, Jake, the fact that I saw it as like, oh, this is like a trio now, like this trio of creators have come together to form, the storyteller of Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, like our hero Batman, and then Zoe Kravitz as like, our sort of like supporting characters in many ways, which more and more Batwoman has become over the years, which I think is fantastic. So I loved that aspect of it. I loved when they were talking about casting, and you got elements of, we tried on the Val Kilmer suit and all that kind of stuff, and that makes perfect sense, because again, as we'll talk about, he just fits the role so well. And yeah, you could just see that their sort of passion and enthusiasm coming through, and yeah, I just can't wait to see this film.
Yeah, and
yes.
Speaking of the film, then Dave,
how perfect that I got to introduce it as well. So, yeah, the Batman trailer was finally revealed. They kept teasing it throughout the entire DC FanDome. They're just like, stay tuned for the Batman trailer. Stay tuned for the Batman trailer. Coming up later, the Batman trailer. And it was like the final thing. I wasn't surprised. Very much again, like, the Disney Investor Day, etc. They keep the best goodies till last. And it very much felt warranted in that, this is one of the closest DC projects we got coming up now. So in the trailer, where we very much see it as like a Batman-led trailer, the sort of teaser was giving us elements of Gordon, and then like the tone and the villain. Whereas here, you're very much focusing, as I said, on Batman, Catwoman, elements of like Riddler, but more of like the focus on Gotham, more Penguin in this as well, I would say. So we got a bigger look at the cast. We got more of that, I thought it was a great blend of like bringing in the Nirvana song, but then also still having that amazing score from Michael Giacchino. And, overall then we just got a moodier Bruce Wayne, and we got a bigger look at all of the action, but then still quite light on story really, which is really impressive. So, so far as well on the Warner Brothers, this has like 22 million views on YouTube. A lot of people talking about it, even got us some attention online. A lot of people like supporting our tweets, etc., which is very much very gracious about all of that. Thank you for everyone who sort of like highlighted all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, guys, what did you think of this, first full trailer of the Batman? Jake, I believe you have one of our, biggest Batman fans with his thoughts as well.
Yes, I do. So before we get into mine and Tom's, let's hear from a special guest we normally have on, Rob Ayling.
Hello, gentlemen of Capes, Cowls Masks. This is Rob Ayling speaking, and these are my thoughts on the Batman trailer, which was released at DC FanDome. It's incredible. I mean, what more is there to say? It does exactly what it needs to do, and I need to see nothing more. Like, if I see anything else to do with this film now, I feel like it will spoil it for me. And I've seen the trailer already far too many times to get overly excited, which I am. I'm so excited about this film now. It's going in the right direction. It looks incredible. The score sounds already epic and grand and operatic. The performances look very good as well. I think Zoe Kravitz is going to be the standout actually in all of this, because in the trailer she looks great. She looks incredible. And it astonishes even me now to think that that's Colin Farrell as the Penguin. It really does. It's really astonishing. What I also like about this trailer is that it's not giving really anything away. I think there's more to this film than just the Riddler and Penguin. I think there's another key player in all of this. And I'm excited to see that in the film now. I don't need another trailer. I don't need to know anything else. This does exactly what it needed to do. Bring us the hype. Show us some badass imagery. And yeah, look, the shot of him going down the corridor and no one even being able to shoot his face is obviously preposterous. But fuck it, it looks incredible. I've used the word incredible far too many times already, but that it literally is the word to sum it up, really. And yeah, this whole film noir crime epic drama, it's the right way to go. And I think the moment for me where I was like, okay, this is just like it's just like wow, is the final moment really, when the car flips over and you've got Batman walking and the car is upside down and it's an upside down bat walking towards the Penguin, and oh my fucking god, it's fucking incredible. It's so good. Yeah, I think I've said all I need to, and I'll let you guys delve in the rest of it, to be honest with you. But yeah, cast looks great. The film looks great. I think Matt Reeves has done a terrific job already. I think it's going to be amazing, but I don't need to see anything else until March the 4th now, and it needs to come sooner. I wish I could see it right now, to be honest with you. And yeah, this is the Batman film we need right now, and it's the one that we deserve.
And that was Rob Ailing's thoughts. So now back to ours. I mean, it's a masterpiece of a trailer, really. It is. It does what any trailer should do, that if you were already excited for the film, get you even more excited about the film. And if you didn't know this film was coming, oh boy, do you know this film is coming now, and you do not want to miss it. I was losing my mind. Dave, you were sat right next to me. You saw all my little reactions going on at every single frame in this trailer. It is the Batman film I've, in a way, always imagined I've wanted since growing up with the character. It is dark and gritty, gothic, noir. We don't, like you said, Dave, there's not much of the story, but it's very much seems to be a detective-driven type of story. The visuals of it are just fantastic. The use of lighting in with the reds, and then when they're out in the Gotham City, we're seeing a lot of, to me it seems like a lot of sunrises, that sort of orangey yellow horizon. It's just such an interesting and new take on Gotham in live action that we haven't seen before. And then Robert Pattinson, from the get-go when they announced him, I was like, he would not have been my choice. It was a very wild dark horse choice, but having thought about it, I'm like, no, this guy is suited for the role. Having seen a lot of his indie work after his Twilight years, he has grown so much as an actor. He is fantastic in everything he's in now, and I can't wait to see him in this role. There's one thing to have the voice, and there's one thing to have the physique, but what he is doing, which not many of other actors who've played Batman before doing, is doing a lot of facial acting. You just see a lot, there's something about his eyes in the cowl when he's either looking at Selina or when he's looking at the Riddler. That moment in that interrogation where he punches the glass and he's like really angry. You see in his the mouth acting, the eyes acting, phenomenal. This is like, how dark and broodier could you get a Batman? But they somehow managed to do it. Like, this guy is just so dark and miserable. You can see the pain in him. You can even see it in the scenes with Alfred, which looks fantastic as Andy Serkis looks fantastic as Alfred, by the way. In Andy Serkis's little scenes, you see him always looking like, oh dear God, like what is actually happening. And there's even the quick moment where Batman's pummeling into someone and Selina's watching this with a really concerned face on her. This is like a Batman completely unhinged and really dangerous. And obviously it's his early years. He's still finding his way in what to do. It just really excites me. And then from the very opening, with that, the rain and the police coming into that cafe surrounding the Riddler, you know, you get the little question mark in the coffin and all that. Straight from that, I was like, this is David Fincher 7 Zodiac vibes all over it. And I just I love those films so much. So from the very get-go, they said that that's a big inspiration for this. I could talk about this film for hours, but Tom, I'm sure we're going to be all talking about this for the next few minutes. But what were your initial reactions about this trailer?
It absolutely blew me away. Like it just blew everything else of FanDome out of the water, to be honest. And I had to sit for like several minutes just processing it. It was, as far as trailers go, it's probably like the best trailer I've ever seen for anything. I just love the look of it. Gotham looks absolutely like beautiful. I'm loving the sort of. I just love everything about this, to be honest. Like Zoe Kravitz looks amazing as Catwoman, and I think her and Rob Pattinson are going to like work really well together. Just based on what we've seen in the trailer, what they were saying as well, just on the little chat they had beforehand. This, like, I know I've said this before, but this movie is like seriously going to be something really, really fucking special, and it's going to generate a lot of buzz. I think, honestly, it could just completely redefine Batman for moviegoers. And what I love about that is the fact that just like listening to them talk about it and just seeing this film, it does seem like whilst they are, trying to, more than anything, make a really good movie and a really good Batman movie, they do seem to be honoring a lot of the stuff from the comics and just little things that they're honoring, and just that makes me excited.
Clayman vibes.
Yes. But I was very like. I don't have enough praise for this trailer, really. Just like all I need is I need the film. I need the film now. Just completely blown away by it. It's the most hyped DC project that I have. Higher than The Flash, higher than Black Adam, higher than any fucking thing else they've got going on. This is just, I mean, hell, at this point, after watching the trailer, I was just kind of like, I can wait for Doctor Strange. I can't wait for this. I mean, like, now after a few days, I'm just like, no, I kind of want Doctor Strange now, but just this is still just like drawing my attention. It just keeps coming back to the Batman. After I finished watching the trailer, one of the first things I did was just pick up my tablet and start reading Batman Year One again. Just because like I'm just getting so many of those vibes from it, and I'm so excited for this film, so excited to see it. And I'll stop talking now because, like Jake, I could probably go on about this for hours and hours.
Yeah, Dave, how about in light of your name on Zencaster, sweetheart, why don't you talk about...
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart. Yeah. Well, I think that does kind of epitomize to me in many ways why it works so well. And I think, like I said, interestingly, I agree with Tom. I think it's like a perfect trailer. It's so good. And it gives you so many signs of like it could be a fantastic film. But you don't want to go too early in saying like, oh, this could be amazing, because it's so light on story. It's hard to say like, oh, do we like this? Do we like that? Do we like that? The road it's going down, because we don't know where it's going really. There's so much up in the air. And we still have heard barely anything of like certain characters. We've only really had the like few lines in the teaser from Jeffrey Wright. But I hope it stays that way. I hope that like we get this trailer and maybe a final one and that's it. Because I think a lot of film trailers, especially because of the pandemic recently, we've had like...
No more.
Yeah, we've had it where we're
I
like,
say
oh,
no
I feel
more
like I
after
kind of
this, yeah.
saw most of that film, majorly because, they had to keep releasing trailers when films got delayed and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm with Tom. I think that we haven't seen Doctor Strange. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I'm happy for you to push that aside because I'm not excited by it because I've not seen anything visually by it that gets me excited. I'm very much like that with projects. Some people are like, no, give it to me now. I want it. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, I'm happy for them to work on that. But this, you've teased me. That teaser had me so wrapped in. You've given me the music. I've listened to it. I've seen so much of it. So, I'm fully invested now. And, I would go as far to say that this is, potentially one of my most anticipated comic book projects just at all from anything that we even have announced. Obviously I'm excited for things like Fantastic Four and Blade and stuff in the future. But the fact that this does seem so much like Batman just being done perfectly, I'm just excited by the prospect of that and what it could mean for future Batman films. And to go back to the Robert Pattinson stuff, those people who were just like, oh, sparkly vampire, he's going to be like, oh, what a lame choice. The same people who were there saying oh, Ben Affleck's a terrible choice, Christian Bale, blah, blah, blah. Where are you now? Where are these people? Where are the people who are always dissing these casting choices and then proven utterly wrong? Yeah.
And Michael Keaton.
Every single Batman
Mr.
actor
Mom
has had
as
it.
Batman.
And I just think this incredibly hilarious with this one particularly, that people were so on the board of oh, this obvious joke to make about him being a... Because ultimately those films were trash because the books were trash. Even, the performances weren't good because they were just terrible characters, like the Twilight films now. But, it was never necessarily Robert Pattinson was just an awful actor. It was, if anything, comedic that he was there in press junkets for it being yeah, I'm so excited by this film, he clearly was just doing it for money and was just not enthralled by it at all and knew what it was. Here you get to see him doing something that he fully understands, and the performance, as Jake was saying, a lot of people say that the performance is in the eyes, and that's what's so perfect about this. I think that a lot of other actors have been weighed down by the prosthetics or the costume. Christian Bale obviously had the jokes of I'm Batman and all, he was very much it was kind of comical and there was so many sketches about that. Yeah, we might get some stuff like that because Batman's so popular. We might get that afterwards with this film, but it just seems that he's playing such a grounded, realistic version, and that you can see so much in those interactions between him and Catwoman. The eyes, he's got it with the eyes, as you mentioned, Jake, when we were watching it. He's got the makeup. It isn't just magically gone when he takes the mask off. So that adds to the realism of the character, but also just to I don't know, Robert Pattinson's commitment almost, that he's got it there. You can see the black makeup around him, and then he's still doing that squint. He's got that depth to the way he's looking at characters, and he's got this grit and determination. He becomes a different person when he's Batman to when he's Bruce Wayne. And I think when we watched it, I was the mouth acting is as good as Carl Urban and Judge Dredd. He understands that this is a cowl, this is where my face continues, and he's perfectly doing that comic book Batman the Animated Series style, kind of the grim sort of look that Batman has to his face. And there's shots in this in which I saw from the trailer in which he's you see him looking up at the Batman signal, or that moment where he turns to Penguin. Just that I look at. We were talking earlier about the Arkham games, and you very much, obviously that's a 3D model, you can make it, oh, this looks perfectly like Batman, but there I'm that looks like Batman. That just looks perfect. I love the costume. I love how he looks in it. I think it's just the perfect blend. There's not too much black. It's not too bulky. I hope they don't change it too much in the future. I love the brutality of it, the gunshots, literally, hitting him. He looks amazing. A lot of people, I think the Edinburgh setting obviously looks like it's just a work of genius to set this in somewhere like Edinburgh, such a gothic place already. Yeah. And I think Glasgow as well, actually. I think there was a mix of different British locations, but amazing choices. So, just the lighting, as you said, Jake, with some of the sunsets and the dawn, and, the fact you get to see Catwoman, because in the first trailer we said, oh, we're not sure about like that hat thing she had and everything, but here that was Catwoman. Like the way like her body moves, where they're up on that building and you see a silhouette, you're like, that's perfect. Yeah, Penguin, everyone can't believe that it's Colin Farrell. My favorite line from the trailer, you know, oh, take it easy, sweetheart. It just shows so much about like what type of character is, who he's playing, how he's completely become a different person in terms of, you know, Colin Farrell to this character, and he is fully enveloping who this type of Penguin is. And yeah, I think it's really refreshing because obviously, you know, once you had like Danny DeVito do the weird hunched over shorter Penguin, then, you know, it's hard to really sort of replicate that. So yeah, I think that was an amazing you know, choice he's done with this to make him this kind of like mobster guy. And yeah, I'm just so excited. Like the question mark in the mug is just so, like you said, Fincher, but also just like very like Batman, very kind of like creepy, dark. It seems like, you know, something you'd get on the front of like a graphic novel or something like that. And I'm very interested as to, you know, what we will get story-wise from this, because I think the biggest thing about this is the visuals as well, that you've got a director like Matt Reeves who's able to bring in those like amazing visuals. Like you've got like the red where they're going through the water and there's like a flare and people are following him. You got those great scenes where it's like flashing and he's like beating people up in like some sort of, I don't know, rail station or something like that.
Nightclub, it looks
the neon
like,
at the beginning with the, you know, that looks very much like a painting or something. So just, yeah, beautiful visuals. The music, as we said before, is absolutely astounding, and I cannot wait. It looks amazing, but, you know, but still we don't know too much about the story. Let's see where it goes, you know, that is the very exciting thing about this.
Yeah, I was about to say, Dave, I love though that they've held back on the story, and as well that they've held back on show, even though it's not going to be like some weird, like, oh my god, it's him. Like, we know what Paul Dano looks like, but I still like that they're just holding back on showing his face. We get a little glimpse, you know, in the first scene when they're arresting him, and then we don't see it when he's obviously meeting Batman in the prison, it looks like, which I said this to you, Dave, like, I don't know what it is about that moment, that interrogation scene, but I think that's going to be like one of the meatiest scenes in the whole film. Like, I'm getting like Dark Knight vibes of when Joker and Batman are having that interrogation scene. I think there's going to be a philosophical battle there about justice and him also manipulating him and teasing him and all this.
Part of me though,
I can't wait.
I don't know if they were like throwing us a curveball with that though, because I was like, would you do another interrogation scene when that's so famous? Like, maybe it is, you know.
Well, it's the thing is, you always really have that with Batman though. Batman always has an interrogation scene with one of his villains. That's sort of like a Batman thing. And you mentioned like obviously the visuals, but props to Greg Fraser, who is the cinematographer on this, because he is making the rounds lately and doing some phenomenal work, as he has done recently with Dune that's just come out. So
yeah,
he's
can't give all the credit to Matt Reeves, like
the minute, and making
credit to him as well,
a lot of these. Yeah. What else about? I mean, the Batmobile. I mean, come
I got
on,
you.
that just
I
looks
got you.
epic. My God, and I got you. And I also love that he's literally just taken a muscle car and put a jet engine on the back. I love, like, you can see it's so stripped down, and even in that fight scene when he's surrounded by all those guys with painted faces, like he's got like some sort of taser gun. When he gets that guy by the neck, he's like, shh. I'm like, this is visceral. So stripped down. I love that. It. And like his Batcave, his Batcave also looks like this, like underground train station or something like that, because it's got like a clock. And I'm thinking that's like an abandoned station near like the Wayne grounds. Maybe
when they had the virtual panel background, like where Matt Reeves and stuff were, there was like, it was like the station, and it had like Wayne. I was like trying to read what it was. But yeah, like the visuals in terms of like when he's like coming out of the fire, the explosion, like that, you're like, oh, that looks like perfect. And then the element of him like walking up to the car and like the jagged elements of like the logo coming in with the point, like the points of his mask. You're like, this is how you understand Batman, is that you're like adding like the subtleties of his character and his design into like the aesthetics of the film. as well, which I think is amazing. So yeah, that's another reason why I'm so excited about it, because like it just seems like such a deep understanding from everyone involved.
Tom, anything else you'd like to say about the Batman?
No, I think we covered it already. It really does seem like it's going to be like the ultimate Batman film, and I'm just so excited for this and for them to make more Batman films and for that Gotham series they're doing as well. Just it's a very exciting time to be a Batman fan.
It is.
Yeah.
I would have liked one Jeffrey Wright line.
We
though.
can't
Just
wait.
This one, just that, like, from your friend.
Yeah,
Yeah, a bit light on Commissioner Gordon, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got someone with a voice like that, you use it.
Especially after What If.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe
You know,
why they
capitalise
didn't
on
do
this.
it. Maybe they're just like, oh, we don't want to make it seem like it's a Marvel thing or something.
Right. So I think before we head out with the closing thoughts, I will say, like, Tom, you were a bit miffed that there was no word about the Green Lantern. I was also a bit curious about how little Superman they spoke about, and any, apart from obviously the Superman and Lois CW show, like any development on Superman films. Now, I mean, it's not public, but I think we can all agree that Henry Cavill's time as Superman has ended.
Yeah.
Unless by some miracle they say, all right, Zach, you can come back and do your second and third parts. But then we've also been told that J.J. Abrams is doing a black Superman with Ta-Nehisi Coates. No word on that. And then we also got confirmation a few weeks back that the Michael B. Jordan Val Zod Superman is going ahead. No word on that. So curious why they're not talking about Superman at all. But I will say something that I absolutely loved is that they took the time to announce Superman's new mission statement. So before, his mission statement has always been he fights for truth, justice, and the American way. The new statement now, to better reflect the world we live in 2021, it is he fights for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. And I think that is so fitting for what the character represents. He is the man of tomorrow. He is a man of all people, not just America. So, yeah, I really love that element, and I love that they committed to that going forward. That is the new mission statement for Superman. Saying that, very bizarre that they've not a peep about what's happening with Superman moving forward in, like, the movies.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, we got that huge Wonder Woman feature, the 80th anniversary thing, and, like, they even mentioned, like, they basically, like, reconfirmed, like, yeah, we're getting Wonder Woman 3. So, yeah, it is a bit weird that, like, I mean, is it really good enough that all we got was about the Superman and Lois show? Is that really good enough for the flagship character? Like, he's not just, like, Aquaman, guys. This is Superman we're talking about. We're talking about literally, like, I would actually...
The superhero.
Like, he is, like, I'm sorry, Batman, but Superman is probably the most marketable superhero, like, in history. It's just very weird. Like, okay, fair enough if they don't have any plans, like, at the moment, and if every plan they have is, like, really early days. But again, to not even mention it, it doesn't show a lot of faith, you know, at your big fan experience where you're showing off everything you're doing. Even if you are just giving a quick update, just mention it. It's Superman. But that being said, I do like the new mission statement change. I think it fits the character a lot better. And if people are pissed off that he no longer represents truth, justice, and the American way, get over yourself.
Oh yeah,
Fox
me and
News
Jake
are
had a
probably
good
gonna
laugh
argue
at some of the
I'm pretty sure
hilarious
Dean Cain
comments
has been
people
going
were just
crazy
making, which
about it.
made no sense whatsoever. And yeah, and if you have a problem with his comments, then go eat shit, quite frankly. But yeah, I think that I was surprised that wasn't the motto in the first place. I was like, oh, was that, I think a lot of people had that reaction, like, oh, was that the motto? Like, doesn't make any sense, so yeah, I think that motto sounds like something that he always had anyway. Sounds like he's something he always represented. And I think in a way, actually, I'm actually glad that there wasn't any project announcements, because I think they very much are in this stage of, like, we don't know what to do with Superman. He's kind of like a difficult character to make relevant to, like, today. There's been so many iterations, etc. And I think because they're in the middle of this like potential like Black Superman, like will he appear in different projects, all this kind of stuff. The Snyder Cut, happened, and then that was going to continue Superman with so many evil Supermen, happening in different places. I think they very much want to figure out where he is, and I wouldn't want them to like just randomly announce something like they used to do, where they were like, "Oh, we're doing this," and then it never happens. Because let's not forget, DC did have quite a reputation for announcing projects that never happened.
Yeah. All right.
So
enough, yeah.
Also, you don't want to like be announcing the change of that mission statement and then having a Superman which people can latch that onto. So similar to what we were talking about with Robert Pattinson, etc. If you then go, this guy is Superman, or this is the project we're doing next, people will go, that is the enemy, that is the mission statement encapsulated. Let's go after that thing. So I think it was better just to go, yeah, this is the thing, this is the mission statement, leave it as it is. If you don't like it, get lost. So you can't attribute it to any other version then, kind of thing. So I think that like, it's kind of like if they just announced the Avengers roster all at once. Because I saw it the other day, they were like, oh, the Hulk will become She-Hulk, Thor will become Lady Thor, Captain America will become Sam Wilson, who else was there? Hawkeye will become what's her name? Female Hawkeye, Kate Bishop.
Bishop.
And then it was like Iron Man, Ironheart, and I was like, wow, like radical people would like really have a problem actually looking at that team and being like, oh, it's so woke, it's so like like trying to do this, trying to do that. But again, like Marvel at least has been like slowly bringing in those changes and going, yeah, this is this version that, we're not changing the character. But if they literally went, here's your new Avengers lineup, and everyone went, oh, what the hell? There's like 4 women on that team. Oh, anger immediately. Whereas they can bring it in gradually. And hopefully then they can just like slowly silence those people away. So, yeah, but I think everyone's on board. Any sensible, sane person is on board with the motto change. And yeah, I'm glad that there wasn't like a too hasty decision on Superman. I would love to see like a big Superman film, like a traditional kind of approach, like not have all this evil kind of stuff. But if it takes a bit longer to get to that, then I'm fine for you to take that time and do it. Also, I think it would...
Fine, Dave,
also, I think it would ruin what I was saying about earlier. I like the fact that this almost felt like a sequel to last year. If it felt like they were just like, oh, here's all the new projects. I like that they were like, oh, this is where we left last time. This is how we've updated this project. It's focusing on the Suicide Squad, Shazam, Black Adam, Batman. It felt like that was, whereas it feels in the future then that the DC FanDome could be focused on Superman and Blue Beetle, and there'll be like a whole new little batch, like phases. Superman is in another phase.
Well, if that's the case, I'm also going to be a little bit biased here, but I am kind of salty they didn't even mention something about Zack Snyder's Justice League and how well it performed.
Yeah,
and,
I'm surprised.
Just a little something, do you know? But that's a whole.
It's how many
we could go on
avenues
for
they wanna
another
go
3
down,
hours
isn't it?
about
Like,
that.
Before we were saying about like all the multiverse things you could do, like, oh, you could have a Zack Snyder's, Snyderverse, but it's like when you see how many projects they've got lined up, you're like, you don't want to have too much going on at one point.
Now I'm greedy. Give me everything. I want a new project every day.
Well, on that note, then, Dave, what are your closing thoughts on DC FanDome 2021? And are you excited for everything they've
yeah,
announced?
I'd say, majority. I'm very optimistic. I think it's a good sign, the majority of stuff that I actually came out with a better opinion of. And I think that we had some good teasers. I think that the Batmobile thing was like the perfect way of doing it, and that encapsulates everything, of not going like this, unveil the cloth straight away and show you everything. But it was enough to sort of go, oh, this like warrants the ticket kind of thing. If you had paid 15 quid or something, you would have felt you would have got your money's worth, because there was so much footage, there was so much you saw. It wasn't kind of just like, here's a logo reveal, here's us chatting to this person. It was very much like, we're saving the goodies for this event, and they came through with that. So I think, touche to them. It was very much like a great sequel to DC FanDome. It's a great experience. I felt they like flew by as well. I didn't feel it was like too long or anything. And yeah, it's just fun sort of visiting those worlds, visiting those different projects. And I'm happy if, Marvel wants to sort of like mimic that. Do I think that we could do it with like everything? No, I prefer we just have DC and Marvel. I wouldn't want to then start seeing like Star Wars, fans, space, and, like all this kind of stuff happen.
Well, I
Celebration.
will say, Dave, we do have, I mean, it's a
No,
bit.
that's what I mean.
Well, Celebration is more of a convention, but I was going to say the Disney.
Oh,
Investor
no, I
Day,
know.
I mean,
And
it
they
doesn't have
definitely
the same
wanted to
ring
mimic
as DC FanDome.
FanDome in that. But what I'm saying is in the future, if they then want to get rid of the like
Absolutely,
Investor Day, which doesn't have the same ring to it, they can make their own sort of Marvel thing.
Yeah. Talking about budgets after the Fantastic Four announcement.
They should have had what they had on now, where it was just like a bunch of people like, we'll now have questions from the investors, and like people asking, just like the one of the DC presenters, like, now we want to know what you think, and he's just like, what is your capital going to be in this? He's like, I have no idea. I'm some guy from Australia.
I don't think any of the WB execs want to be on that firing list.
So yeah, another successful event. We got just a good balance, I think, a good balance of projects. Nothing which I came away going like I'm overwhelmed, which I felt that we have been in the past. And yeah, just give me Batman right now, and I can't wait for that movie. A fantastic closing finisher for it, and just some great teasers for other stuff, which I'm equally willing to wait for some stuff. Some stuff I'm surprised is, quite far away. Some stuff shows the flaws of Warner Brothers and this whole streaming versus theatrical kind of stuff. But on the whole, it just very much showed the strength of what the brand can be. Though I was disappointed that the poster had Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, and as we said, featured no Green Lantern content or even Jon Stewart, which when I saw that was like, ooh. But no, nothing.
Tom, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, loved DC FanDome as a whole. As you said, very disappointed that there was no Green Lantern. Fuck you guys. But yeah, overall, very enjoyable experience. I know I joked about it earlier, but honestly, like, it didn't actually... I did feel like it was going on a bit at one point, but it didn't feel like, 3.5, 4 hours, whatever it was. But yeah, it's got me a lot more hyped for a lot of DC projects, including some that I perhaps wasn't so hyped for before. So I think it's done its job in that regard. And just give me the Batman, give it to me now, and maybe next year, if we could have a little less Flugelborg, ask him to tone it down a bit, and I'll be happy.
Oh, I liked him.
I would have him over corny presenters. We were saying this is the type of person you want because they have that natural charisma, not so much like a force. Like, I'm so excited for Titan Season 4. It's like, no, you're not. Stop lying to yourself.
No one is. Come on. So that's my final thoughts. Great show overall, and looking forward to next year's, if there is one next year or whatever they do next year.
Well, there won't be because their house will be burnt to the ground.
I think.
No, yeah.
Yes, because Tom would have burnt it down. No, I think they're definitely going to keep this thing for a while now. As I said up top, it'll be interesting if they start to do in-person events as well. Obviously, still
10 years from now.
Yeah, obviously still have it available for everyone around the world to watch for free, but have the option of having a live audience there, because I can imagine hearing all these announcements surrounded by a live audience like it is in Comic-Con.
Also, a natural way to bring in all the merch, which we didn't even mention as well. All those like caps and like, hey, I'm here with my hat range and like new Batman Nike trainers, live events.
Hey, Puma, not Nike.
Either way, they would be there selling that stuff. They would like, you on this?
They would. And all the action figures they announced as well. So yeah. Like you guys, I think this was another success from DC FanDome. More of the same, please. I'm excited by all the projects they've announced. Some of them I'm either the same on, or they haven't really boosted my excitement. I'm still at the same level of excitement for them. And others have exceeded my expectations. Now, I was already excited for the Batman, like, beyond belief. But that trailer just took it to a whole nother level. Give me this film now. Can't wait for this. Another success for DC. So with that, let's get out of here. Let's go to bed. We've been at this for over 3 hours now. There's been a lot to cover. So if you've been listening for this entire time, thank you all for listening so much. We really appreciate you coming on board every week, listening to us speculate, discuss, and geek out. But if you want to continue the conversation with us, Tom, where can they do that?
They can find me on Twitter or probably at my local pharmacy, seeing as I'm ill all the bloody time. But no, you can find me on Twitter at Comic Book Shogun, where I regularly just post my outrageous opinions, and sometimes I drink and tweet, which is a dangerous thing. Don't drink and tweet, people. But yeah, that's where you can find me at the moment, and nowhere else, because I'm active nowhere else.
Nice. You can catch me
Dave?
on Twitter as Lad Bible did. Thank you, Lad Bible, for sharing my tweet on Instagram. Where you can see me giving such anecdotes as my love of, the penguin moment in the Batman trailer. Also talking about, what I'm looking forward to, and other just like casual, general stuff that I'm acknowledging. Hopefully, we'll be making a return back to Letterboxd once I've got my film watching back in order. Recently saw Dune, so pop over to there. So Twitter and Letterboxd, both at David Osgar, Osgar. And even if you want to catch me on Instagram, where Lad Bible shared my tweet. I don't post on there much, but it's at David Osgar.
Nice, yes. And also a special thanks to DC for retweeting our tweet on Twitter as well, on the Cowls Masks Twitter page. If they want to keep doing that, feel free. And if you want to slide into our DMs,
just slide on in.
You're also more than welcome to do that, DC.
Ooh, yeah.
You can also find me on Twitter at SweatyJake. DC, if you listen, you can also slide into my DMs personally. That is more than acceptable. Where you can also catch me talking about stuff and sharing this podcast and geeking out with everyone on that. I'm also going to be seeing Dune. On the day of this release of this podcast, I am currently seeing Dune. I have made my pilgrimage to London to see it in the BFI IMAX. I am so excited. So yes, and I will be giving my rating and review on Letterboxd, so catch it on there. And don't worry, Dave, I won't be posting my review on Twitter. I'll make sure it's I'll just have like a one-word like reaction or something like that. Don't want Dave coming down me. And as for the show, you can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Cowls Masks. And whether you use Anchor, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or Google, please subscribe and follow us on there. And if you're on Apple, leave us a rating and a review, as it all helps us go up in the ranking. So thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next week. Stay safe, everybody. Goodbye.
Take it easy, sweethearts.